Hi, I'm Denise Maple of Live Life Spiritual Direction. I am very excited to introduce my guest today, Lisa Aranis. She is the owner of Empowered and Authentic Living and one of the therapists there as well. And I have known Lisa for many years. Lisa was one of my motorcycling buddies back in the day, and we hope to pick that up soon. And lately, we've been exploring all things spiritual together. So, welcome, Lisa. And I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came into what you do.
Thanks, Denise. Thanks for having me on. Gosh, that feels like a big question. I mean, how far back do I want to go? So the life before this one, or
The choice is yours.
okay, I'll just start with as far back as I can remember, I always wanted to do two things, I think, is bring fairness and justice to the world, and also to bring happiness to this world. And so I went through high school, etc. My mother was encouraging me to become an accountant because she thought that way I could for sure have a good job. So I tried really hard. I hated every single accounting class in the world. Anyway, finished that. And then I went on to get my law degree, thinking that I would do the whole fairness and justice part. But halfway through law school, I realized that that statement about laws about money and politics, I really understood what that meant. So it was very discouraging.
Now, what
But
was the statement about law and politics?
well, that it's not about fairness. It's
Yeah.
it's it's about, who has more money gets to get what they want. I mean, I'm saying it pretty basic, but I found that to be true.
Sounds true to me.
Yeah, so I didn't want to have any part of that system. Passed the bar, didn't really know what to do, fell into a job at MetLife doing financial planning, etc. But the turning point was when I had to read a book, The Seven Habits of Very Effective People. And the first chapter in there, I believe it's the first chapter, they have you imagine you go to a funeral. There are four people, it's a colleague, a family member, somebody in the community, and I think it's the last one's a friend. And what if you look down and you realize that it's you that's deceased, and the question is, what do you want each of these people to say about you? So I knew in that moment, oh, I want to be remembered as someone who helped bring happiness into this world. So the next day I started calling up to find out what can I do to help people, what course I need to take. So I landed in school a year later and got into a master's in counseling program, graduated in 2001, and that's what I've been doing since then. My practice has morphed since then, but that was the beginning of it.
And so you've been counseling since, and you have your own counseling center. So what is that? What do you offer there?
Well, I think what makes us unique is we do the standard, I say standard, therapy, couples, adults, youth, dealing with mood disorders, relationship issues, LGBTQ plus issues. But I think what makes us a little bit more unique is I've really embraced the spirituality and the woo-woo. So part of the things we offer would be things like sound baths, Reiki, energy healing, yoga. So it's a little bit different than most.
Yeah, which I love. And where is it located?
It's in Hoffman Estates, Illinois.
Okay, in Illinois.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So when did you decide to start bringing the spiritual in, and why?
Well, that started in 2018. I had a spiritual awakening. And when I say I had a spiritual awakening, I literally got called to go downtown as part of the March Against Gun Violence after the like Douglas. I keep forgetting the big shooting that happened in Florida. And I don't know what happened to me because I've never been involved, but I'll say that's when the universe called me. So I
Mhm.
felt the need to go downtown and, I don't know, be a participant somehow. So what I tell everybody is I went downtown one person, I came back a completely different
Mm.
person. And really, I just felt like I needed to do more. I don't know what the more was, but I started reading every spiritual book I could get my hands on. I just got, I don't know, I just got pulled to do it. That's part of this journey. You feel a pull and you follow it. And I started getting what I call downloads, which is just intuition with very specific directions sometimes. And one of them was to go find a spiritual coach because I realized the reason why we have so many uh, the word that's coming to my mind is atrocities, but just one class of people thinking that they're better than the other class of people, whatever the class is. I wanted to break through that, and I realized that the answer was to help people understand that each one of us is a human being and to accept and respect another simply because they're a human being. So I didn't realize what that meant. So I thought, well, if I'm going to teach that, I really have to know what that means. And somehow I understood this to be a spiritual path.
Mm.
I think that was a download. So I found a spiritual coach, and through her and all the things I was learning and more pulls, I eventually left where I was working with a group private practice. And on total intuition, following the signs, I opened up my own company, um, and truly embraced the spiritual piece at that point.
So let's talk a little bit more about your spiritual journey. What has your spiritual journey been like?
Wild.
Tell me more.
Wild and not fun and phenomenal and fantastic and awful. Um, so I think one of the things I learned through this process, I was reading a lot of the sort of the typical spiritual books. And you get the impression, at least I did, okay, you read, you meditate, you try to embrace, what Jesus would live like, that kind of thing. And then you become. That the whole spiritual path is about breaking down the ego. Essentially, we operate from two greatest emotions, love or fear. And fear is essentially what has created the ego. I have to be this in order to be good enough. And so this whole process of coming to a place of self-acceptance and love, which is right. So if the idea was to have love and acceptance for other from a love space, then you really have to give that to yourself first, which I had realized actually before my spiritual journey that that was everybody's core wound. I'm not good enough. So the path then became the universe delivering all kinds of circumstances that really challenged me. And each challenge basically was to help break down the ego that you don't know you have, right? That's why they call it the shadow side. Um, people will talk about inner child healing, which is essentially what your shadow side is created from the wounds from the inner child that you didn't even know you had. So then you got to go back and heal those wounds. And it's a like I said, it's a rewarding journey when you get to the other side of every time you break through something. But the whole path of going through the something it's extremely, extremely challenging,
Can
brutal.
you give an example of what was a challenging experience?
I mean, in a broad stroke, the most challenging experience was um, starting the company and having to work with another person. They say when you have a business
Mhm.
partner, it's kind of like a marriage and your personalities clash. And then they really, really clashed. It was the most roller coaster time of my life ever. And yet I still had to continue seeing clients and taking care of business. Um, I want to give a better example. So I want to use where my ego got involved. I guess here's one thing, right? So, um, my business partner was very spiritual and very in touch, very clairvoyant. And so she would see things that I could not see. And I came from that typical use logic, you have to have goals, and then you set yourself and then you keep going for it. So there were many times when she would say, we need to do this, like expand the business or do this thing. And, I came from that fear mentality. Well, how are we going to do that? And where's the plan? And so then we would clash, and she would say, you're just too short-sighted. And I would say, no, you just have too big harebrained ideas and you can't land anything. So we would get into really huge arguments over, trying to make a small decision. Um, so, that actually led me into my own therapy. And I learned some things that weren't really pretty that I didn't quite know, and maybe kind of knew. So I had used my intelligence as a way of knowing I'm a somebody, because when I was a kid, that was what I understood I was good for. Um, my humor was also something that I noticed people would like me for that. So anyway, I would use these tools as a way to get attention. So I think probably the worst part of the journey was breaking down parts of me that I just thought were the parts that really got me the attention.
Mm.
And I remember thinking, well, if I'm not doing that, then who am I? Right. So that was kind of scary at the beginning. And I remember the therapist said, don't worry about it. You'll just be you. So the hardest part, I think, was having to go back through some of those childhood memories and reliving experiences that created um, those shadows, I guess. So probably, I think I'm all over the place, but I think probably the worst part was when I realized how I had hurt people
Mm.
in my attempts to be safe from further hurt, which I never knew I was doing that. And so when it all opened up, I remember thinking, here I am, a therapist, and my whole passion is to help people and bring peace, happiness, joy. And in my own life, I was taking a knife and into people without recognizing I was doing that
And isn't that one of the biggest things we humans do?
all the time,
Yeah.
all the time,
Yeah.
and it's not about wanting to hurt someone else. It is literally about just trying to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That helps me when I remember that. It helps me have more compassion with others, because I've done it, they've done it. We're all coming from, unless we've really done our work, from our wounds.
Right.
And that inner child work I have found is so important to getting there. So what does it feel like when you're on the other side of it? I mean, I know life is a journey and there may be more, but once you got through that, what was that like on the other side?
Light,
Mm.
light. It just becomes that feeling of, they say you just get to just be, because you're not worried about people accepting you and liking you anymore, because that's the path, right? You like yourself for who you are and you accept yourself with all your flaws, etc. So it just becomes like liberating, liberating. And again, just, for the audience to know, it's not like you just you do this hard work and you get here, right? You get a rest. And then life shows you circumstances. Oh, you're not quite done. Like, oh man. Um, so, throughout time, again, I always say it takes really challenging times and situations to get you to the other side. So now when I have them, at least I can say to myself, okay, I don't know what's here for me. I'll ask, but I always know there's some growth here, and then there will be another side that will just take me another level from where I was. And in fact, I'd say I just came out of a cocoon, a dark place, whatever you want to call it. That really, I think, took me to another whole level that I didn't know, right? And that's the other piece of it. Like you think you're this wonderful place, and then oh no, there's another wonderful place to get to, and perhaps another wonderful place to get to. So I just let the universe take me where I need to go, and I just ask, please make it as gentle as possible.
That's a great thing to add to your prayers. And yeah, as we go through these challenging times, what I've learned is that it's a little bit easier when I know and remember that there is light on the other side and that it will be so much better if I just face it. Has that been your experience?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I tell my clients this all the time too. I go, well, you have a choice. Here's your free will. You can push it off and you can avoid it, but it's going to keep coming at you and it'll come back louder and harder. I don't want that. So as soon as I'm in a situation, I start going, okay, I'm open. I want to know. Show it to me. Um, I'm all in. So I do. I want to put in the work
Yeah.
to make it, I'm going to say, as easy as possible. But I, in no way, shape, or form do I want to say that this is an easy journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can think of it, and when I think of it that way, I'm like, well, it's not an easy journey to face your fears, to face your stuff, but it's also not an easy journey not to, because we keep creating more suffering for ourselves when we don't want to look at it and
That's
pretend it's not there.
that's right. That's right. And I also want to talk about the flip side. We have this saying when the challenging times come, we say, right, the universe is bringing something for you, and we
Hmm.
don't go looking for it. It just arrives at our doorstep. But
Yeah.
the flip is true. When the good stuff, the abundance comes in, you don't have to go looking for it either. It also just arrives at your doorstep. And that's one of the things that I just found so fascinating. Fascinating.
Is that because you surrendered more and just allowed life a little more
Yes,
to
on both
unfold?
sides. On both sides. Right. So
Yeah.
I've realized that there is no way that I can possibly know what is there for me. Like even if I think of, okay, this is how much money I want to make, or this is the relationship I want, or whatever the abundance thing is, that's still limited because I don't
Yeah.
really know what's possible. So I've understood that. So what I say, okay, universe, I will allow you to, I invite you to take me to whatever is possible. And same for the challenges, right? Okay, every day, almost every day, I'll say, help me to become more and more in alignment with my paths and my highest version of myself, fully knowing that that will probably require challenges, whatever they are. So I embrace them, and when they come, I'm like, okay. And I share that things are just a stepping stone. What you know is this, and a lot of people will say, okay, we got this. This means all of this. I'm like, nope, this means this. All you know is this is true today. You don't know if the next step is here or here or here or here or here. It does. So yes, it is a whole piece of trust and surrendering to the flow, which is and trust. And again, I would say
Yes.
that is hardest concepts to live by.
Yeah. And I
Hardest.
find myself ping-ponging sometimes. Like I'm in the trust, I'm in the flow, and then I forget. And I have to remind myself to allow
Right,
myself to go back to the flow.
right. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes I go, well, do you really exist? Is this for real? Or am I making this? Do
Yeah,
I
that
just
sounds
tell
familiar.
myself to make myself feel better, you know? But when you're on the light side and you look back at all the places you've been, it just starts to really come together and you see it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you can see it from a higher perspective when you get some space from it.
Right,
When you're in it, sometimes it's hard.
right.
So you had mentioned that rally that you went to. Um, it sounded like a spiritual awakening. Were there other spiritual awakenings that you experienced?
So I would say that um, after my last breakup, which happened a little over a year ago, I think I went into another one because I remember at what point saying, I feel like I'm in a similar feel of the dark night of the soul, which is a very severe spiritual awakening. And
Mhm.
um, yeah, that one was difficult for me as well. But that also launched me onto another level of learning some things, like dropping off some more ego stuff. Again, did not know existed, and then took me to another level of not just acceptance for myself. So the path, again, if you're going to have unconditional acceptance for others, you have to have it for yourself. So
Yeah.
that process helped me to have that for myself. And then I learned how to have it for the other. So
Yeah.
that was probably the most remarkable piece that came out of that relationship. So as much as it was, extremely challenging, it was also very, very rewarding to land right where I've landed.
Yeah, it sounds like an important experience. And in my experience, relationships can be our greatest teacher if we let them.
Oh, well, if you want to go down that road, I actually think that relationships are designed
Mm.
to help us get to this, place of self-love, because our relationship that we go through, we really are attracting people based on our wounds. It's not love, it's not that stuff that we think about it. It is your
Yeah.
wound is pulling the other person who will help mirror you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's exactly the word I thought of when you said that is like, the people that we're in relationship with are our mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Showing us something.
Mm-hmm.
So I know from experience of working with you that you have developed an energy healing modality. And could you tell us about that and how it came about?
Sure. So I would meditate every day. And somewhere in the meditation, I started getting this pull that this is something that I could do. My previous business partner, this is what she did, and so that was not my role. Um, so I kind of resisted it for a while, like, no, that's not me. I don't do that stuff. But so with this ex that I was with, I would share all these things with her, and she said, "Well, you should just try it." So I remember actually being on a trip with her and her two kids, and each of them had a different ailment, and so I used my hands, and all I understood was to find where I feel heat on the body, and just keep my hands there. And then just intuitively, I would know if to stay there or move them and how long. And so each one of them, and including my ex, would say, "Oh, wow, I really felt a difference." So then I thought, yeah, I look at my hands and like, for real? And I know people can do this, but again, it was shocking, right? That was
Hmm.
unbelievable that perhaps I actually had this gift. So I really had to see the proof in the pudding.
Yeah.
And then I started sort of experimenting with some of my clients just to see. And, people would say, oh, wow, I had this pain when I came in and now it's gone. So I did that for a while. And then I faded away from that. I don't know why. And then it's that intuition started coming back in again. And then I had a friend who had messed up her ankle. And oh my gosh, it was actually pretty interesting. I was at her house and she was talking about her ankle and it's paining her. And I said, well, oh, you want me to try? She said, sure. So I put my hand on her ankle where I felt the heat, and she gave me so much feedback. Oh my God, what are you doing? I go, what do you mean, what am I doing? She goes, I feel like you're literally squeezing my leg. And I'm like, I just had I wasn't touching, but it was
Hmm.
kind of like this. And she felt like I was just, ugh. And then she could feel this energy going through her whole body. And then she got this headache and whatnot. But anyway, so when we're done, she was much better. And then we also did something another time, actually in the middle of a nightclub. So here's what was really interesting. So every time I did something, she would feel this massive energy in her. And not everybody feels it, right? When people have done energy work on me, I don't actually feel anything. But then she went to her PT, and she healed super fast. And the PT said, I don't understand how you heal so quickly. So she's just one story. And then there were others, and I just started my friends. I would, put my hands when they said something, and people would say, wow, I feel like you have a magnet? And oh, my pain went away. So it was really just by people telling me, what they were experiencing that I began to believe, I guess, that I had this gift.
That's cool. And I am a Reiki practitioner. And I'm thinking of all the studies that have been done with Reiki, and I think what you do is very similar. I mean, it may even be the same, but done a little differently or called something differently. I certainly don't know how it all works because it
Me
just
neither.
works.
Me neither.
But there's been so many studies done that show that when you compare, for example, whether it's depression or a physical ailment, that if you add Reiki to the protocol, that there is a significant or at least a measurable improvement in outcomes. So it's
Interesting.
not completely understood how it works, but it works. So
Hmm.
that's really cool that it's like you stumbled upon it.
I sure did. I'm like, all right, if it works, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And the whole basis of I think about yoga, right? And all the poses is about trying to open up the chakras and move energy, right? That's stuck in the body and, basically where certain energy is stuck, then you have particular ailments, physical, mental, emotional ones. So I realized, oh, how fascinating would it be to process people's childhood wounds and at the same time open the energy? So that's been something more powerful. Again, you and I are both saying we don't know how it works, but evidently it works.
Yeah.
So there's a beautiful combination of helping them process their stuff at the same time you're moving their energy and opening up the energy. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, that's really cool. And going back to what you were talking about with like feeling the energy when you worked on me, I definitely felt the energy, not only the energy that, was coming from your hands, but, the flow of the energy started to move and I could feel that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's when whether I'm receiving energy or giving the energy, which I'm just a channel, it's just flowing through me.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a really cool experience.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I every time it happens, I still go, for real?
Yeah, that's great. And the fact that it's amplified your practice is really amazing and quite frankly probably adds a lot of uniqueness to your practice and in your center.
Yeah.
So, is there any advice you would have for someone who is wanting to delve into spirituality? You had talked about how you started studying, based on your experience. What if someone is new to this whole idea of spirituality or wants to dive deeper?
Oh, what advice would I give them? I think I'd say number one, buckle up.
Buttercup.
And really what I try to do is to give them, little snippets of what I've gone through. So they understand I mean, I've used words like brutal. I remember one time looking up to the universe and said, this is my definition of cruel and unusual punishment. So I want people to understand that, and not to scare anyone, but
Mhm.
just to know it's not an easy path, but it's so well worth it. And also there's no getting around it. I think they use the term spiritual bypass. You can't. You just can't. Right? There's the only way to get to this place of enlightenment and self-love is to go through the healing process.
Yeah.
And I believe, right, the universe will guide that process, and it may seem awful, but I also believe you don't get anything you can't handle. I would tell people, one thing, maybe educate yourself on what the process would look like, but reading it and then experiencing the two different things. But I would absolutely suggest they find someone, right, spiritual coach, therapist who has a spiritual background to help them walk through this, because it essentially it's a lonely journey anyway. Even if you have someone that's working with you, you're the only one going through all the emotions. Um, but I think it's good to have someone who can understand and help, right, help put things into perspective. Why is this happening? How does this fit into anything? And just someone to hold the space, as they say, right? Because
Yeah.
it's tough. Like it really is, it does change your life. Sometimes who you're with, who you're hanging with, the things you do, the people you relate to, the foods you ate. Sorry for the ding, and I try to turn my email off, but
It's okay. It happens. Well, it's so interesting that you're saying that because I mean it's true. It's been true for me. I've been going I mean, I would say the last 7 or 8 years have been challenging for me, and I feel myself coming out of it. But the last 2 years have been particularly challenging. And like you said, the foods, I just can't handle consuming certain things anymore. I can't handle consuming violent or stressful content on TV. I've had friendships fall away because we're just not interested in the same things anymore or vibrating on the same level, or it has been a little bit lonely at times, just in that process. But when you're in the depths of it, you feel even more lonely, when
hmm.
you're down in the bottom.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was in the thick of it, I would come home and I'd lay on my couch, lights off, music on. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I had no desire to engage with anything, nothing. I just needed to lay there. Yeah, and that's not me. I mean, I'm very sociable, very outgoing, always connecting. So it was so 180 at that
Yeah.
time. Yeah. And
And
oh, I just want to say, we're talking about all these things that change, but remember also people have these physical things. Like I had awful stomach issues for a while. I went through everything trying to sort it out. And ultimately, I mean, my bottom line was no matter what I ate, right, I would just end up with stomach issues. And then over time, it just went away. So I do know that is a common thing that people go through physical symptoms as well. And
yeah.
when people do, I always say, go get checked out because we don't always want to make the mistake. Well, you want to spill your past, so that's what this is. Yeah, don't do that. Have it checked
Right,
out.
right. We
Still
we
have
can
it checked out.
use all of all of the things at our disposal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what advice would you have for someone if, if they are struggling, whether it's a spiritual journey or just struggling in general?
I would say find your community of people, which is also very hard to find. I think you are doing something like you do meditation groups or something similar to that. I've created a women's circle that happens, a women's spiritual circle that happens the first Tuesday of every month. Again, to give people a space that they can relate to with other people. Um, a- and someone, whether again, a coach, somebody that can help you through this. But I think that those two pieces are really significant. A community, connection. Um, and then I would also tell people like really follow their intuition, right? Part of this problem is their intuition or their pull or their feel says go this way, but the mind comes online, the program mind says
Mhm.
no, 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 no. And that's a big piece of it. And I think this is what makes it even a little bit more difficult, challenging, because we're so used to just going by the program. So
Yes.
I try to tell people trust their intuition, trust the pull, just follow it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we have to walk through the fear to get to the other side. As you'd mentioned, as we started this conversation, fear can hold us back. And if we let fear
Hmm.
hold us back from following our intuition, the universe is just going to keep bringing the lesson
That's
back
right.
until we listen.
Right. Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with everyone about your journey, about just anything that you've learned on that journey?
Hmm. I think that, I guess one of the questions I ask people when they first start is ask, do you even know what a spiritual path is and where you're heading? And you'd be surprised that most people don't know the answer to that question.
Mhm.
Um, I'm going to go off on some tangent now. So essentially, right, I basically say I think the spiritual path is learning to live. I guess Jesus is a great example, right? Coming from a place of just love.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not just love for others, love for self. And so now I'm going to segue because I think that particularly when you pull religion in, there is a lot of I'm supposed to sacrifice myself, and that's how you show love and show up as a loving person. I said, but self-love. You can't say I'm going to love you and then sacrifice yourself, because then
Right.
then you are part of that big one whole. And
Yeah.
if everything is supposed to be love, then you're included in that too. And that's a big barrier for a lot of people. A lot of people feel a lot of guilt, and it's almost like I tell people you actually can't give love from a love place unless you love yourself first. And what I say to people who are just doing the love out there, I said that's mostly coming from a place of fear, actually. It's not love. I want you to like me. I want you, right? So if I do all these things for you, then I will be
Yeah.
accepted, I'll be a somebody. And so it's a big shift for people to recognize, so it's okay for me to focus on me. Not only okay, it's absolutely necessary. And so, in that process of someone focusing on themselves and finding that self love, that's where they learn the compassion for other people. Because you realize what you had to go through and the things that happened to you and how you showed up. So, when you start seeing behavior of other people, you go, okay, they're wounded too. And
Mhm.
they just haven't gotten the healing, which then makes it, a little sad. But if we want to change the world, which is my big passion at the end of the day, then it starts with you, right? I said, all you, I make this so simple. All you have to do is work to become the best version of yourself, and you will influence the people around you just by who you are, not even by trying to do or be. It is literally just by the essence of you. And
Yeah.
that's how powerful you are. And if everybody just starts to do that, right, we
Mhm.
can spread this love to all the people that are in our worlds. And that's how change happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, what if we all did that, right? How do boundaries come into play in the balance between loving others and loving self?
So, great question. And an easy answer, check your energy.
Mm.
So
Yes.
if you're saying yes and energetically you can feel this tightness in your body, then you know that's not actually coming from the right place. So
Yeah.
boundaries are loving, right? They're loving to
Mhm.
yourself. Even establishing boundaries with someone else is to say, I love you so much. I want to have a relationship with you. But in order for me to have a relationship with you, these are the boundaries that I need. That's another example of boundaries. So, it's really shifting people from this mindset of, I'm putting boundaries around me, so I'm keeping you away from me. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
you're putting around boundaries around you because this is what you need to fill your tank. Otherwise, you're going to be drained.
Yeah.
And then if we want to go back to, and if you're drained, and we're also talking about you want to be a light or be a good influence, well, what kind of energy do you want to put out there? Because everybody can understand that concept of everybody has an energy about them. They feel the vibe. You walk into a room, you could feel the vibe. Like, right. So what kind of vibe do you want to give off? Right? One
Yeah.
that feels good and content and peaceful, or resentment and anger or low energy. I mean, right? Well, of course, I want to do high energy, good energy.
Yeah.
Great. So why would you do things that's going to drain you?
Yeah. And can't we feel that in
Oh,
ourselves and other people?
totally.
The difference between those two extremes and whatever's in the middle.
Absolutely. So it's easy to sense it. What's hard is to follow through because the mind comes in
Mhm.
with, oh no, but you should.
Right. Right. Don't should yourself.
Right.
And you had talked about your regular meditation practice. I've found that getting quiet and having that quiet time is an important piece of really getting in touch with where your energy is most best served, we'll
Right,
say.
right, right. And
Yeah.
I like what you said, it's a practice. And it's, to me, I use the word lifestyle. Like, when people talk about being healthy, it's not like, all right, well, I went to the gym for a year, I'm good, now I can stop.
Right.
Right? Right. Well, let's see where that takes you. So it's a
Right. Downhill
lifestyle.
pretty quick.
Right. So, and that's part of the, what's your North Star? Right. And so, I mean, most of us, we've been trained to get up and go, 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 go. And then you come home, you're exhausted and got a little energy left over. And then you do your thing and you go to sleep and you start off in the rat race. Well, that's not really living. You're kind of surviving. And the idea is to thrive from this beautiful place. I mean, I know I sound maybe a little too, what's the word? Fantastical. Um, but it does work.
And it's absolutely possible.
100%, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we can be in challenging circumstances and at the same time be at peace because there's this piece of, well, I can only focus on certain things, right? I can't do
Yeah.
everything. So what can I focus on? This little me, one, and how I can influence people. So that whole idea of sort of every morning just grounding yourself and settling into connection with the universe and getting yourself in that mindset or energy, I think that's a great start to the day.
Yes. Yes. A good start to the day usually leads to a good day.
There you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Lisa, what if you could let people know how to find you, how to work with you, and just anything else you'd like to say in closing.
Sure. Well, you can find me. The website is ealcounseling.com. You can contact me through Lisa at ealcounseling.com. Phone number 224-801-1779. Or just type my name in, Lisa Aranis, and you'll find me. Um, what else do I want to say? If you're even questioning anything, just call, just get some information, do yourself a favor. I always think, taking the first step can be hard, but I think once you take that first step, that is the beginning of your journey unfolding. And it, again, so worth it. So worth it.
It's worth it. And everybody who's listening, you are worth it. Don't let anybody tell you that that is untrue. You are worth it.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for making the time for us to get together and talk about spiritual things and growth and all of the interesting parts of it. And I hope we can do this again.
Thanks, Denise. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate just giving me this little platform to share what I know.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And I'll put Lisa's information in the notes below so you can find her. And we will see Lisa again, I am sure. Bye,
All right.
everyone.
Bye-bye.